demonstration planned for the centre of Tehran, Engelab Square. Before they started to assemble, large numbers of riot police were there to prevent them going into the square. As the opposition demonstrators arrived, they seemed to have been tackled by the police using tear gas and water cannon. And some people have said they've heard reports of gunfire. We haven't got any confirmation of that. It could have been firing there. It could have just been tear gas rounds, which can sometimes sound like gunfire. So all the reports are running clashes now between the demonstrators and the police there in the centre of Tehran.
And what's your reading of these two separate reports, John? The first one talking about this suicide attack at the Mausoleum, and the second one talking about pro-Mousavi supporters setting on fire one of the regional headquarters belonging to the president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad.
Yeah, and I express scepticism on both of those. Firstly, the first report of that alleged bomb attack came on Fars news agency, which has been a particularly unreliable and government propaganda mouthpiece, really, despite being supposedly semi-independent. Setting a bomb off, whether it has been done or not, at the Imam Khomeini shrine would be just exactly the kind of provocation that would excite supporters of the government. So maybe that's part of this whole pattern of a new crackdown. We just can't know. Maybe we'll never know the truth of that one. The other thing is the reports that Mousavi supporters have set fire to an Ahmadinejad headquarters in South Tehran. Again, I can't confirm or deny that, but most of the opposition demonstrators have really been hard to portray themselves as peaceful demonstrators, and the government's been trying to portray them as hooligans. So I think you need to draw your own conclusions from that.
Understood, John. Now, as to the government response being more concerted, does that mean that the person or the people who are driving the government reaction have had to step up a gear when it comes to how they do what they do, or have they been caught on the back foot here?
Yeah, clearly they were wrong-footed earlier in the week. They thought they could frighten people, frankly. Immediately after the election, they put out their Basiji thugs on the streets, and they put out numerous broadcasts telling people not to assemble for rallies. People still assembled in huge numbers on Monday and have continued to assemble since. And now I think the Supreme Leader's speech yesterday, Ayatollah Khamenei's speech to Friday prayers, when he said that's it, the end of these rallies, I think was a signal, as we all feared, for the big crackdown on the demonstrators. And this is what we're seeing now, absolutely on cue.
And why did the call for more protests, or for people to join fresh protests, come via Mrs. Mousavi's website? Why didn't the opposition just come out and say, come and join us?
Well, these things, you never really know. You never quite know these things. There's a lot of different channels of communication. She was the first one to call for the big protest last Monday, for example. And on that occasion, Hossein Mousavi called for the rally to be cancelled. But then he said he was going to go there anyway, which gave people the hint that it wasn't cancelled. Today, he said he was going to put out a big statement, and then we just haven't heard from him at all since. So who knows if he's his own free agent or if he's not decided what to do. We simply can't draw any conclusions.
A lot of people patently, John, did actually vote for President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. But when it comes to this suggestion or this plan of taking a random selection, 10% of the vote, and recounting it, how are people reacting to that? Do they think that would be enough to calm everything down?
Well, we just got to look at it. I mean, Ayatollah Khamenei said with a question yesterday that the election was over. That was it. There was no more questioning of it. So the poor old Guardian Council, who are loyal followers of his, must have been in a quandary. They've been told to go through this legal process by him, but they've also been told the election is unquestioned. So I think the reaction of the opposition was already seen by the fact that this morning they never even turned up for a meeting with the Guardian Council. I think they could see it absolutely going nowhere.
And that offer in itself, as a demonstration of we understand what you're saying, did it not even come close to appeasing the opposition? Did it come any place near to making the opposition feel that the regime, that the president and that the Ayatollah were actually listening to what the opposition wanted?
No, no way whatsoever. They've already rejected even a complete recount because they say the irregularities in the election were so great, and they believe that many votes have gone astray between the ballot boxes and the count. So no, they won't accept anything less than the Quran.
And as to the events, indeed today and yesterday, we've seen these areas in effect, John, being sealed off. Does that mean that the city has been chopped up, if you will? Does that mean once the police move in and seal off an area, it stays sealed off, and it stayed sealed off for the past few days?
I don't know. I'm not down there. I don't know what's going on down there.
Okay. What's your sense, John? What do you think is going to happen next? Because this political energy is obviously still continuing to build as far as the protesters are concerned, and yet nobody really seems to be absorbing what they're calling for.
Well, I think there's two things here. First of all, how does the opposition respond now to these more organised tactics by the government? Do they reassemble? Do they have a think of how they can hold rallies, or do they have some other tactics, such as maybe a general strike? And on the other hand, also, I think we need to look up at the very top of Iranian politics to see if there's any kind of fight going on there for the leadership. In theory, the Assembly of Experts can review the leader's position and even dismiss him. And that is a card possibly for President Rafsanjani might choose to play at some point.
And have some of the analysts got this right, John, in your opinion, when they say if this is the beginning of change in the Iranian government or in the Iranian regime, it will not come quickly. It will be a slow burn change because of the relationship between religion and politics?
Well, I think we don't know what's going to happen next. Frankly, we're in an unprecedented situation. It's completely unpredictable. Is the government going to succeed in these demonstrations? Are the demonstrators going to get the better of them? There's so many unknowns. I think that going on to sort of change the whole system is many steps ahead.
John Line in Tehran. John, thanks very much. Well, the very latest on that, eyewitnesses in Tehran telling the BBC, posting it on